At the Department of Cultural Resources, we like to say that history happens here, and it happens here all over North Carolina. With heroes like those that are assembled with us today, we know that that is particularly true here in this room. Although this is a powerful ending for Black History Month, at our state historic sites and museums, we observe Black history all throughout the year.
My name is Freddie Parker, and I am honored to chair the North Carolina African American Heritage Commission, which holds as its mission to preserve, to protect, and to promote North Carolina's African American history, arts, and culture for all people. As we join for this auspicious occasion to honor the history and legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen who called North Carolina home, we also honor the history of all African Americans, known and unknown, who contributed in innumerable ways towards this state and this nation. Some labored under the oppression of bondage. Some risked their lives for freedom. Some joined hands to create churches, schools, businesses, communities, great music, compelling artistry, and some dared to soar above clouds in defense of their nation. Some of you may know that each Black History Month has a theme created by the Association for the Study of African American Life and History in Washington, D.C., an organization started by Dr. Carter G. Woodson back in 1915. During the course of this year's Black History Month, we have been reflecting on the theme, Black Women in American Culture and History. If you are wondering how Tuskegee Airmen connects to this theme, allow me to share with you the name Delia Rainey. Delia Rainey was the first African-American nurse commissioned as a lieutenant in the United States Army Nurse Corps during World War II. She was a graduate of the Lincoln Hospital School of Nursing over in Durham, the first nursing program established for African-American nursing students in the United States. Prior to joining the military, Ms. Rainey was an operation room supervisor at the Lincoln Hospital in Durham. Ms. Rainey's first assignment was at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. She was promoted to chief nurse at Fort Bragg in 1942. Ms. Rainey then transferred to Tuskegee Airfield and became the first chief nurse at Tuskegee. Delia Rainey was a Tuskegee Airman. We salute her along with distinguished gentlemen we honor today. On behalf of the North Carolina African American Heritage Commission, I celebrate and honor your sacrifice and commitment against great odds. Yours is an example I will uphold in the classroom and the communities we engage. Thank you very much.
Go out and tell the story, let it echo far and wide. Make them hear you, make them hear you. How justice was our battle and how justice was denied. Make them hear you, make them hear you. And say to those who blame us for the way we chose to fight, that sometimes there are battles that are more than black or white. And I could not put down my sword when justice was my right. Make them hear you, make them hear you. Go out and tell the story to your daughters and your sons. Make them hear brothers then? Will justice be demanded by 10 million righteous men? Make them hear you when they hear you. I'll be near you. Oh, yeah. Yeah. The Tuskegee Airmen is an icon deeply rooted in African American heritage and American history. It is not easily understood, however. How can more than 16,000 people follow 13 colored men in 1941 who would lay the path which would result in integration in armed services, when at the same time that group of people knew that it was a society that they would defend and go in harm's way that really had no place for them? Perhaps that is the true American dream, to dream the impossible dream. Some of these men said they just wanted to fly. I just wanted to fly an airplane. That was it. Some others said, in language that I can't repeat here with this august body, I want to get a piece of Hitler. Still others said, for love of country. When the Nazis saw colored pilots in airplanes flying over Germany in their mission, the Nazis said, what keeps them in the air? How can they stay flying? What keeps them in the air? Perhaps it was because of what they knew they had inside. Perhaps it was what they knew of their buddies who flew next to them in tight formations that stayed with the bombers. And the pilots of bombers went home to their family. Perhaps it was their faith in God. Before each mission, the Tuskegee Airmen would pray. And I suppose they had a prayer similar to this. Oh God, I do not ask that you remove me from this plight. Just, oh God, strength to make it through this night. But sometimes night is slow and the day is shy. Oh God, just this one thing before I die. Most of these airmen are now gone. They're no longer with us. We're blessed today to have some here, and some of the families here, and some of the chapters here. And we're grateful for that. And we're grateful that the governor is here to punctuate the significance of this whole affair. Thank you so much. What we'd like to do is present to the governor faces of some of the airmen in North Carolina, that in times away from months like this and days like this, you can look upon them and smile and say, when I was governor, this is what we did. We recognized them and remembered them. Can't speak for other governors, but when I was governor, amen to that. Okay? Thank you.
This is a very fitting and proper way to end off a month of celebration as all of us across North Carolina in all 100 counties, led by Secretary Linda Carlisle and the team at Cultural Resources and Secretary Moses Carey and the team at the Department of Administration, have found very appropriate and fitting ways in community after community to celebrate the legacy and the gift of African American participation in this state in years prior. But there is no greater opportunity than today as we actually honor a group of men and the woman nurse, a wonderful story, who understood enough about love of country and sacrifice of self, even in a time when they had very little, if any, recognition from members of this country and from the leaders in their own military platforms. They chose to serve. And we are so grateful that several of those Tuskegee Airmen are from the best state in America, North Carolina. It's also an opportunity for me as governor of what I continue to call and believe is the most military-friendly state in America to remind you how grateful we are of your day-to-day service and to celebrate the fact that as we begin to see record numbers of our men and women return to North Carolina from their service in Afghanistan and around the world, that their families are once more reunited, and that the people of this state and this country owe them and their families a moral obligation to continue to provide for them the resources and the jobs that this society should provide. And it is very fitting that we honor the Tuskegee Airmen and continue to do that because of the service you have given our state. When I looked at the history of the country, it's incredible that the first president and first commander-in-chief, George Washington, said, "The willingness with which our young people are likely to serve in any war, no matter how justified, shall be directly proportional to how they perceive the veterans of earlier wars were treated and appreciated by their nation." So we can never do too much to appreciate those who have walked the walk before us. When the Tuskegee Airmen served, they simply were not treated right by the people of North Carolina and by the people of this country and perhaps by folks from around the world. They were not appreciated as they should have been. They had to prove themselves, just like some in our great state and country still have to prove themselves, time and time again. The Tuskegee Airmen had to prove themselves over and over as pilots before they were allowed to risk their lives to fly. They had to prove that they were fighters and patriots and willing to take a risk. It was a time in our history where segregation and discrimination were the hard and true facts of American life and of military life. African Americans, as I've read the history, and I have, who served in the armed forces, were assigned jobs like kitchen work and road construction. They were never allowed to go to the front lines nor to move up the rank of the officer corps. These men had to fight to be able to fight for the defense of this great country. They had to fight to be able to offer their lives to a country that didn't treat them equally and probably didn't realize they were not treating them equally. Can you imagine if you had been the wife or the mother or the father or the brother or the sister of these men, what courage it must have taken to see them walk out the door when you know that they were not to be celebrated nor included. In North Carolina today, let me remind you one more time, we are the most military-friendly state in America. We understand clearly the role that the Tuskegee Airmen played in making our fighting force what it is today and helping continue North Carolina's brand for service to this country. All of us, in our own simple way, understand the importance of courage and valor and dignity to who these Tuskegee Airmen were in their fight for America and who the members of the military and their families are today. Thanks to all of you, we understand that the brave men and women who serve, no matter their race, their creed, their color, are true American heroes. And we are very grateful. It's my honor today to be here with folks that I have long admired, people that I'm proud to have been able to call myself a North Carolinian with, and to present the state's highest honor to these Tuskegee Airmen, both the Order of the Longleaf Pine and the Old North State Award to the folks from North Carolina who have Tar Heel blood flowing in their veins. Please be seated. Thank you. There isn't often an opportunity in North Carolina or American to celebrate people who lived during times that so few of us in this state and country understand. Once more, let me walk you through the pages of this country's history. These men, with the support of their families, decided that they cared enough about America and the people of this country, both then and now, to risk their lives to serve as Tuskegee Airmen at a time when they were not respected as citizens of this great country. These are the kind of people who have rewritten America's history and have changed the destiny of many men and women throughout this country. Without the Tuskegee Airmen, many of us wonder when the first page in integration might have been written. So not only for your bravery and for your service and for your capacity to take big dares and live big dreams, but for the fact that you did it in a time when you were not part of the parcel of the main fabric of this country, speaks to the quality not just of your bravery and your strength, but to your heart and to your soul. And for that, this state and the 9.5 million people who call North Carolina home will never forget you and are incredibly proud to have been able to formally honor you this day. For those of you who chose to spend this time with us and with our honorees, the Tuskegee Airmen, North Carolina is better off. Thank you for caring enough to be here today as we celebrate a golden page of America and North Carolina's history.